Welcome to another edition of James Martell's Coffee Talk, where James, successful publisher, speaker, and author of Online Success for Non-Techies, talks frankly and openly with experts from within the internet marketing industry about strategies and techniques you can use to develop a successful online presence for your personal or corporate brand. Here's your host, James Martell.
Yes, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk. It's great to have you with us. Today I'm going to be speaking with Don Landwirth, Consulting COO to Spreaker Inc., an online broadcast and podcast service, and host of the weekly podcast, The Free COO, where he offers free advice on building and running a startup company. I'm going to be talking with Don about the power of using audio, specifically podcasting, to help customers easily find and connect with your business. Podcasting is a relatively new phenomenon, one that many business owners typically haven't considered as a marketing channel. However, after my discussion with Don, I do believe most business owners will see this as an exciting opportunity to attract new customers. Don Landwirth is an operations executive experienced at building corporate ecosystems and taking startups from concept to profitability. He's the founder or first C-level executive of 5 startup companies in the online consumer products, IT consulting, real estate, and semiconductor sectors. Currently, Mr. Landwirth is on the board of Martell Corporation, a B2B provider of real-time product recommendations to online retailers since December 2011, a consulting COO to Spreaker Inc., an online broadcast and podcast service, and host of the weekly podcast, The Free COO, where he offers free advice on building and running a startup company. Don, thanks for joining me for Coffee Talk.
Hey, it's great to be here, James. Thanks for having me.
Interesting. Last night I was actually sitting down with the president of a local company here up in the Metro Vancouver area, up in British Columbia, Canada. And what they do is they manufacture walk-in tubs. And I was chatting with them about podcasting, and he'd never really considered it as a possible marketing method, although once we were done, I think he's definitely going to explore it at a lot greater detail. And one of the things that he was looking at was the possibility of, because he's got a product that really, there's an education that goes with it, he was looking for a method to get into the market and educate customers a little bit more before they picked up the phone and gave him a call. And that's where the conversation went with podcasting. And I know it's a relatively new concept to many, many people. And what I'd like to do with you today, if we could, is explore this whole idea of podcasting from a variety of different angles. I do know that some people look at Spreaker, the company that you represent here, as an opportunity to dig in and maybe learn how to podcast to go on to a radio career afterwards. And then there's other guys like myself that use it for personal branding and to get into the marketplace and to open up new marketing channels. But then we've also got businesses such as this walk-in tub manufacturer who's looking at it from a completely different point of view. So I think this could be a great conversation. Before we get into this, let's talk a little bit about yourself. I do know you have a podcast, as I mentioned in the top of the show here. You're the consulting CEO to Spreaker, and you have a weekly podcast called The Free COO, offering free advice and building and running a startup company. So why did you get started with podcasting?
Well, I had been doing a blog for a little bit, and the thing about blogging is it takes a lot of time to write and edit and go back and forth, and like all bloggers, I think I started to tail off. And then I started working for Spreaker completely separately. And I thought, well, this is a really interesting platform, and maybe I can achieve something even better than blogging by doing a podcast. So I started doing this weekly show called The Free COO, where my goal is to kind of give back to other entrepreneurs. I've been very lucky in my life. I've had some success in businesses and some failures too. And hopefully I've learned from both, and I'm at a point now where I'd like to share that with others. So I started calling up some people in my Rolodex who were successful, who provided services to me when I was a COO for other companies. And lo and behold, it seems like everybody is really eager to go on the radio. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I've been able to find guests every week, and I've been doing it for almost a year now. And I think we're creating really great content, and it's fun.
I do know when I got started podcasting, I host the Affiliate Buzz on Webmaster Radio, and I remember getting started. We actually recorded our very first podcast actually from a hotel room in Maui back in December of 2002. And I was thinking back just before we got on the line here to how technically challenging it was back then to actually get an audio, even just get a simple audio onto the internet. If you recall, low bandwidth, we had to actually provide 3 different versions of it, one for people that were on dial-up, one for, more the high speed, and then a downloadable version. And it was just clunky and complicated. And I know for many years that was one of the reasons that people didn't get into it and didn't really consider it, because it was very technically challenging. But today, with companies such as Spreaker, it's very simple. So why don't we, before we dig into some ideas for podcasting and methods of building new customers, talk to you, Wood, how simple it is to actually record a show and get it online.
Well, first off, my hat's off to you, James, because you were certainly on the bleeding edge if you were trying to do this in 2002. And I can only imagine the challenges then. The bandwidth was not ubiquitous. The technology wasn't there. The microphones and the way to connect to computers wasn't quite so clean. And who in the heck was listening to podcasts back then? So you are truly a pioneer. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Today, it's a different story. With a company like Spreaker, we can make this very, very easy. You need nothing other than the microphone built into your computer and a browser. In fact, we can even take it a step further. You can broadcast live from your cell phone with our Spreaker app. So all you have to do is go on, give us an email or a Facebook account, and that's all we need to sign you up. You can create a program for 30 minutes for free, as many programs as you like. And if you want to talk longer, that's when our paid plans come in. But the Spreaker console online has a microphone channel and has 2 channels for mixing in audio. So you can produce a music program where you're segueing between 2 songs. You can do a talk show where you have sound effects or music in the background, and you can have your intro music and your bumpers and your station checks, and you can run the whole gamut. We've got thousands and thousands of users doing thousands and thousands of shows. We hit our 1,000,000th show earlier this year, and we're now on our way close to 2 million shows, and we've been around for about 3 years.
You mentioned the app, and it's interesting, my phone just happened to ring. I do have the Spreaker app on my phone. I downloaded it. I'll just shut my phone off there. And it is amazing how simple it is, even from the phone. I've used the service online. I've set up an account, and I will be moving one of my podcasts over there just because I love the service. It's so simple to use. Because even with the way that we do it today, we will still record it in a slightly archaic way to what Spreaker offers. Then we have to pull it in, we have to mix it, and then we have to add our intro front and back. And there's still quite a number of technical steps that Spreaker actually completely eliminates. But the app that I have on my little Samsung Galaxy phone here is quite amazing because I spend a lot of time at conferences. And I would love to be able to walk up to someone and do a quick interview with somebody that I run into maybe in the aisles or, sometime during the conference. With the app, I can literally hit the button and I can do not only could I do a podcast instantly and capture it, because it's already digital and in my device, it's all automatically uploaded onto Spreaker, so I don't have to do anything technically there. But also it gives us the ability, doesn't it, to broadcast live.
Absolutely. And again, first off, let me welcome you to the Spreaker family. We're really delighted to have you on board and looking forward to having your audience listening and perhaps be podcasters of their own. The mobile app is really interesting on a number of levels. First of all, for me, as someone who's in business and travels, it's pretty much replaced the radio in my car when I travel. So when I listen to a program live or a podcast from Spreaker, it's using the bandwidth of my phone. It's not using cellular minutes. I've got an unlimited bandwidth plan. So if I'm up in Portland and the car has an auxiliary jack, I just plug my iPhone into the car, or if it's got Bluetooth, I just use the Bluetooth, and I can listen to my favorite show on Spreaker anywhere in the world right in my car for free. So it's really wonderful. In terms of broadcasting, it's got some great features as well. As you mentioned, you could just take out your phone, push a button, you are live and on the air anywhere in the world that has a cell connection or a Wi-Fi connection. And a perfect example is going to a trade show, doing an update to your listening base or to your customers. If you're selling something online, perhaps it's a financial product or perhaps a real estate product, and you're traveling to Hawaii because you've had success, you can go and do an update, a daily update to your followers and say, I'm in Hawaii today because I did XYZ in the plan. If you do that too, come and join me. Let's have a drink together. Or if you're at CES and you do a podcast on digital displays, you can say, I'm in the Samsung booth looking at a 250-inch display, plasma, whatever it is, and you can be updating your base again and maybe taking pre-orders for that display if you're selling displays on your website. There's any number of uses. We've had people, mom and pops, doing broadcasts of their kids' soccer games. So if the one adult is traveling and is going to miss maybe a big game of their kids, the other spouse goes to the ballpark, does a live broadcast. If the other spouse is traveling and has the time to listen live, they can. But if not, they can listen to a replay, because anything live becomes a podcast. And when they call home that night, they can talk to the children and say, hey, I heard you in the game. I heard you scored a goal. It was really great. It was just like being there. It really opens up a lot of opportunities.
It's not surprising as we move into this social era that we're in, that has just come on so fast with Facebook and Twitter and now Google Plus and LinkedIn and YouTube, that a tool like this put into the hands of somebody with some creativity could really run with it. One of the amazing things that I love about podcasting, I was even talking to a local pub owner here in the area. I think that podcasting can fit just about any business if they really kind of sit down and think about it, and don't make the mistake of making the knee-jerk reaction and thinking this isn't for me, because I think there could be a show or a podcast of some type for just about anybody, and it's such an ideal way to move into the market. We talked about coming up with new ways to find customers and clients, and we do know the more traditional forms of advertising, whether it be yellow pages or print news. I just actually heard on the radio yesterday, Newsweek magazine, who's been around for 90 years, is actually going purely digital. They're stopping their print magazine and just going purely online because ad sales are down 70%. So there's been clearly a shift from the offline traditional styles of advertising to the online world, and I know business owners are either still back in the old ways or they're trying to transition to the new, and there's a few that have made it to the online and that are now purely online. And I think podcasting, I think the Spreaker tools can really make that happen for them, because there's some things that we've been able to do with podcasting more on an international level, but take it down to the local level. What's so exciting about it, and especially the way you guys have set it up, is once you finished it and you hit the publish button, automatically that show can then update their Facebook account, their Twitter account, their YouTube account. Talk to us about how that works.
Yeah, well, it's not only after the show, it's during the show. So if you go to thefreecoo.com and you look at the header of any page, you'll see a Spreaker player there. As soon as I go live, that player is a live feed of my show. As soon as I go live, a live feed goes out to my Facebook fan page, and a live feed is available on Spreaker as well as the Spreaker mobile app. As soon as I finish a show, then the podcast becomes available on iTunes, SoundCloud, Tumblr, YouTube. It's also available on any of the other places, Facebook, and any place that you want to embed an iframe or any WordPress blog can have the player embedded. It's really social. Not only that, all of our pages are set up to be SEO friendly. So when you create a program and you put comments or tags in the description of the program, that becomes spidered by Google and all the other search engines. So, for example, on some of the people I've interviewed on the Free COO, if you search on that person's name, in the natural results of Google, you'll see maybe the first 2 or 3 results will be that person, but the 3rd or 4th result on the home page is my show, and in some cases, my picture comes up in the images next to that person. So if you're an SEO guy selling on the internet, this is a really great tool for getting free traffic and free SEO, and it just goes from there. And one other thing, you mentioned categories. If you go to Spreaker and click on the listen button, you'll see about 10 categories across the top, from arts, culture, entertainment, information, science, music, sports, technology, and within there we have several genres. So it really covers the gamut what you want to record. And the other great thing about radio and audio is you can take it with you. Unlike video, you can't watch a YouTube thing while you're driving or while you're riding your bike or mowing the lawn. But audio has always had that quality of being something you can do while you're doing other things. And it creates a picture in your mind. So you can create images of your product or of your services or of your show in your mind. For example, let's say you're in the clergy or a priest or a rabbi. You could do a live broadcast of your weekly sermon to the people that can't make it. And you can do a daily update from your cell phone or from your church or temple to your followers. And you could have a message of comfort, or in times of trouble, in a disaster or earthquake or hurricane, you could be broadcasting to your followers and they don't have to come into the church. So there's just, you name it. It really is a wide open field and a wide open tool for getting your message out.
I like to look at my website as a broadcasting system. Typically, we use WordPress. I know many businesses these days are moving over to WordPress or a similar type content management system. And I've always looked at it in such a way that if you picture the website in the middle, you add content to the website, and then that content, if you set it up properly, can be broadcast out to Twitter, Facebook, the various social media networks. It can automatically be sent out to your email list, and which makes it easy for me to run the site because I just have to make sure I'm adding great content to the site and everything gets updated automatically. Spreaker does an even better job of that because it truly is a broadcasting system where, as you said, and I didn't realize it goes live the second you go live. That is amazing because anybody that has Facebook followers or Twitter followers would instantly be alerted, hey, the show just started, let's go. But also, when it goes, there's a feature here that is so powerful for small businesses. In addition to Facebook and Twitter and iTunes, which are powerhouses all on their own, YouTube is a real opportunity for small businesses because I do know, and I've had a look at some of the shows in YouTube, that when that show is also finished, it also gets uploaded into YouTube as an audio file in a little video player. And the beautiful thing about YouTube for small businesses, and because you mentioned it, it can be SEO friendly if they add the content into it. That show can also rank highly in YouTube, and YouTube's the second largest search engine in the world, and it's one of the easier ones to get ranked in if you've got the content. And video is great, but it's difficult for a small business to really well, there's ways to do it, but this happens automatically with the audio automatically updating. So what I see here, Don, is somebody could put the show together, and I'd like to talk about some ideas on types of shows that could be done. Sure. But somebody could really dominate their area locally for search, in not only Google, but also within YouTube. Talk, if you would, about how it updates YouTube.
Well, it's like all of our feeds. When you have an account on Spreaker, you can go in and select which SEO features you want to activate. And it's just as simple as putting in your YouTube username and password, or your Twitter account, or your Facebook fan page, or your Facebook account. Whatever it is, just put that in, and the next time you broadcast, it automatically does the link. SoundCloud, same thing. With
this little local pub here, I was chatting with him last week, and he's not the guy that's going to be doing it. He's just not he's a really quiet guy. He's not going to be doing the podcast. But you know who he put me on to is the girl that handles the Thursday night karaoke. She's perfect. Her name's Jacqueline, and this would be a classic example probably go out weekly. She could get on, pick up the phone. She's also got the voice. She's got the personality. And it could be, it might even be just a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minute show. It doesn't have to be, long, but she could get on there. And I'm looking at this, I'm an SEO guy, and I'm looking at this from the point of view of how he could quickly and easily organize all the shows so that they're covering different topics. Karaoke could be one topic. Another topic could be their, maybe Monday Night Football and the things they do for the crowd there. They could do the show, and then automatically YouTube gets updated. And then when somebody's in the area looking for things to do in White Rock, South Surrey, in YouTube, up it comes. Also, because YouTube videos also rank in Google, there's another opportunity for for Sawbuck's Pub to get in front of that audience who's looking for YouTube. So the opportunities there are amazing. And then just to think that all the other social networks get updated automatically is pretty amazing for a small company to all of a sudden have all of this reach. And let's talk about this.
Well, James, let me give you a couple other things. So when you have any of our premium accounts, which is a paid account, and they start as low as, I think, $19 a year or something like that, pretty cheap, you get the capability to have followers. So if anybody follows your show, as soon as you go live, we send out an email to all your followers that you're on the air, and then they can click through. There's a link in that email to click through to your live broadcast on Spreaker. And the same thing would go out if you set it up on your Facebook. So as soon as you go live, if you have your account attached to Facebook, a live player is embedded right in your Facebook status, and they can just click on that link and listen in live. After the fact, it's just like an RSS feed. So after the show, it's available in iTunes, and it's immediately available in YouTube, as you said, or any of the other places, Tumblr, wherever you want. And we have a WordPress add-in so that as soon as you go live or after you finish a show, in your WordPress blog, the latest episode can play, or the actual, or any of the past episodes can play. So all of our shows have an ID. Every episode you make has an ID, and your show has an ID. So if you embed the player with your show ID, it plays the live show or the most recent show. If you embed it with an episode ID, then that episode stays there. So if you go and look at the freecoo.com and you look at the header, that's an embedding of the show. So whatever the most recent show or my live show always comes up at the top of the page. But then I do a write-up of each of my episodes, and I embed the episode in that post. And again, I've got all this great SEO around the show. I could even, if I wanted to, create a transcript of the show and throw it into my blog or put it into the page on Spreaker or into my Facebook page. And again, look at the great SEO content you've got on any topic. And with my show, we cover so many topics, from operations to finance to accounting to hiring employees to VC to you name it. And so there's tons of great tags and SEO content that's getting scraped all the time.
There's a chiropractor down in Sacramento, California. Her name's Dr. Gerry Anderson, and she's one of the success stories of somebody who was very much in the traditional forms of advertising, yellow pages, local newspapers, that type of thing. And she made the transition. I actually had the chance to interview her for the School of Internet Marketing, so we do have a coffee talk with her. Very interesting lady, and she, without even knowing Spreaker exists, she's already started a little podcast, and I'll be definitely alerting her to this very shortly, because this is ideal for her. But what she's managed to do is, and you mentioned blogging's more difficult, and for a lot of people who are not natural writers, it is more difficult, and it's one of the reasons they may start and stop and just not do it. But Dr. Gerry has built up her practice now to where when I interviewed her, she was bringing in 4 new clients a week through the internet, and from what I've heard recently, she's now up to an average of 10 new clients per week, all from blogging and all from this adding of content. And she talks about it at great length, how important it is to make sure you're publishing content, because that's what the internet revolves around. Podcasting, for the right person who doesn't mind putting on a nice little headset and talking, isn't it a simpler way to create content?
It's a simpler way, for sure. It still means, like anything the quality of your show depends on your preparation. So I think the more prepared you are on your topic, the more you know about your guest, the better the program's going to be. But there's an interesting study that was done by a woman out of the University of Memphis, and Chris Markman. She was a guest on my show, and she did a study of motivations for podcasting. And the motivations for podcasting turn out to be quite different than blogging. And blogging is more of a chronological type of presentation. This is what happened on this day and going forward. And that's why you always look at a blog and you'll see the older posts, and they're usually done by month or maybe by topic. Whereas podcasting is different. It's more about being an expert and being somebody that should be listened to. And so your audience is going to perceive your message differently when it's podcast than if they have to read it in a blog. And it's also easier for the audience to listen than to have to slog through reading a long description of something. So just like pictures say 1,000 words, well, 1,000 words say a lot more than 1,000 words on paper.
With Dr. Gerry, she's interesting because she really kind of understood early on when she started to make this transition, not too long ago now, that it was the content that was being added to the internet that would really give her an edge over her competition. And in her particular case, she's done a marvelous job of it. With this, and I just want to make sure we get this point across, when you record a show and automatically it updates YouTube and can show up in Google, because Spreaker, one of the things you get with Spreaker is your own page, and every show gets its own page, and every show has, as you mentioned earlier, has got SEO, basically built into it. A lot of the things you need to do automatically happen when you publish that page. That gives them, and I was talking with the walk-in tub manufacturer last night, and what he wants to do is he says, I want to surround my competition. I really want to compete with these guys, and they take all the top spots. Well, by venturing out, all of a sudden, instead of having your own website with content on it, which is great and needs to be done, but also Spreaker's pages start to show up on your behalf in the search results. So does the YouTube listings, because we see in the blended results these days with Google that also the YouTubes are ranking. So this is a great way for a company that, is looking to build content, understands the importance of content, isn't it, to really kind of get into the search results and start dominating.
Absolutely. And James, you know this probably better than anybody. Content is king on the Internet. And not only does every show have its own page, but every episode of every show has its own page on Spreaker. We've really taken our time to make this an SEO-rich platform. And so it's all, the more you put in there, the more you get. And not only that, within your show, you can have sponsors of your own. You can take advertisements, record that, upload that into your stream, embed that, and Spreaker doesn't make any claim to those dollars at all. So if you have a great show with 100,000 listeners every week and you can get sponsors for your show, good for you. We encourage it. It's good for us too. So everybody wins when there's more people listening on Spreaker. And we also do have ads that you can insert in your program, and we do a revenue share on that as well. So that when the console is up, you can just press a button and the 30-second ad gets inserted. And that ad is also SEO smart. We know the location of where the player is playing, and we'll embed a local ad so that the ad that your listener is hearing in Texas may be different than the ad they're hearing in Vancouver or that they're hearing in Paris. Because don't forget, Spreaker is a worldwide platform. So it's great on the local level, but it's also important that you can expand your base worldwide at almost zero cost. Our programming starts for free, James. You can do a 30-minute program every day or 10 times a day for free. If you want to go longer, we encourage it. That's where we make our money. But we really are doing everything we can to get content on this network because we know that's going to be a win for all of us.
I do know as well, because I've had a good chance to look around the Spreaker dashboard, which is very nicely laid out, easy to navigate, easy to find your way around. And I do see that there's a great area in here that allows you to track the stats, how many listeners you have. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, so we're tracking every show. As soon as you finish a live show, you'll get an email telling you how many people listened in live. Every week, we'll send you an update of how many people have listened into your show with a daily breakdown. when you go to your homepage and you click on the stats tab up top, you'll see a stat for your most listened to episodes, your top shows, because you can have multiple shows. For example, I have a show called Live From, where when I'm out with my family or friends in Half Moon Bay or down in Los Angeles visiting family, I'll just do a Live From broadcast. And it's great. We recorded my aunt and some of my cousins, and people now have, this nice historical recording of my wonderful aunt. And, and it was just easy to do, and we were having fun, and my cousins and my nephews and nieces were all there just gathered around the microphone, and it's really a lot of fun to do that.
What a brilliant idea. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about ideas for small businesses, and we can go national, international with the platform. And I guess it really does boil down to creativity. And one of the things I always do in my courses is because sometimes we have a tendency to shut down and think, well, I don't know how to do this technically, so I'm not even going to think about it. I think if we can encourage listeners to not worry about that, because Spreaker handles that so well, and just to kind of get into some brainstorming of some ideas that small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and large corporations could use, when it comes to podcasting, because it really does. The reason that we've done so well online is because we've been podcasting for 10 years, and it gives a real opportunity for businesses to reach out to their customers, and for those customers to really get to know who you are, because they hear your voice every week or every day if you'd like, and it's such a great way to educate a market and because of all the search and all the being broadcast into all the social networks, it pulls customers in. It has the ability to really draw people to you, but it boils down to coming up with some ideas for a show. So why don't we start off with your show? Let's talk about why you put your show together, and then I'll talk about mine, and then we'll talk about some ideas for businesses. So if you would, Don, why did you put your show together?
My show is all about giving back. I'm at a point in my life where I've had a decent amount of success. I feel very blessed, and I want to help other entrepreneurs. So I started the Free COO to be just that, so that every week we cover a different aspect of starting a venture, starting your own business. And we offer tips for finance, for operations, for HR, for accounting, you name it. I've had authors on. We had a wonderful guest, Noam Wasserman, who wrote a book called The Founder's Dilemmas. It's a must-read if you're starting a business. He's spent 12 years studying over 10,000 entrepreneurs, their investors, and their employees, and tracking their companies. He's a Harvard professor in the business school at Harvard. His course is the #1 business course in Harvard, and he just was fantastic. He gave great tips to entrepreneurs. I've had Len Lodish, the vice dean of Wharton School, on talking about marketing. He's one of the fathers of computational marketing. He's, all the stuff that we do today around Google Analytics and all are possible because he laid all the groundwork 30 years ago on how to do computational and real hard data around marketing. So these are the kind of people that I've met throughout my career that are all willing to share their knowledge for free with our listeners, and I'm having a ball doing it.
I know in my particular case, we were into the industry very early, and we looked at podcasting as a method to not only let our customers and our students get to know who we were, but to also educate them on this emerging industry called affiliate marketing back in the early 2000s. And it gave us the opportunity to talk about conferences, to talk about the day in the life of an affiliate marketer, and it's just been a wonderful experience, and it's just been so good for us over the years. It's brought us so many customers and good friends now that we can hardly count them all. And we got to give the credit to this idea of a podcast way back.
Well, I'd love to have you as a guest someday too, James. And we've had people that your listeners might be interested in. We've had the CEO of PPC Associates here, David Rodnitsky. We've had Ian Lopak, who has a blog called PPC Ian. These are really great internet marketers, very, very successful people. This week I've got the former COO of Blurb.com on, and if you've done any publishing of books for your customers, that'll be a great show to listen to. So you could have great impact for our audience as well, James, so I'd love to have you someday.
Well, appreciate that. Thank you. Let's talk about small business. Let's start off there. Let's just maybe spend a few minutes on this. I'm intrigued at the small business level. I love this idea of helping businesses in the local community who were doing really well with advertising at one point, and now the transition's happened and they're not quite sure how to get from there to here, which is the new social, internet, online world that we live in. And I think podcasting is one of these ideas that a lot of people should embrace for all the reasons that we've talked about. But this little local pub that we have in the area is interesting. I've built their site for them just because she was a friend of mine, and starbuckspub.com. And I just have fun with it. I don't really do this for a living. I kind of just did it because I wanted to, I wanted to have a little experiment. And it's been just a great success. Now I'm going and talking to them about podcasting. Well, the first question that would come out of their mouth, what in the world is a little pub going to podcast about? And
there could be a number of things. Oh, sure, absolutely. You could have live on Friday night, and you can have just an open microphone that just runs. And if you had one of our premium accounts, you can broadcast for up to 5 hours, or if you have one of our top accounts, you can do an actual network and broadcast for 24 hours a day. But let's say you just had an open microphone to the world from your pub and just had a mic standing in the corner, and anybody could walk up and say whatever they want. Or let's say you have a local group that you want to feature, and you can maybe do a 15-minute teaser and say, the PJs are playing in our pub tonight. Come and listen. Here's 15 minutes of their show. Or you could say, we're having a special today on ladies' nights, drinks for free for ladies' night, and then interview women about how great it was to come on ladies' night to your pub. It could be anything. It's really up to your own creativity, and whatever you want to do, just do it. If you can say it, you can say it in a podcast.
When I was speaking with the president of this walk-in tub company last night, first thing is he hadn't considered it, and he was kind of closed-minded to him, but I didn't let him off the hook. I was like, no, I'm not getting this across. I got to show you some stuff. And then we started brainstorming some ideas about what he could potentially do, and he's looking to get into his market is the elderly, people who need a walk-in tub, and he was thinking, well, we can't do a show about a bathtub. Well, no, but we could definitely put together a show that was focused on, the demographics that you're going after here. And he started to think about that, and now that's what he's actually working through and thinking about is, potential show topics and an overall, what would the show be about? Well, it wouldn't be about bathtubs, but it could be about anything to do with, healthy lifestyle with the elderly.
Absolutely, yeah. You could have a show on the health benefits of taking a soap for 15 minutes a day. If they carry tubs from 3 or 4 different vendors, they can invite a spokesperson from that vendor to come on and talk about the benefits of their product. They can do a show on how to install a tub, or what does it cost to do a tub? What are the criteria for choosing a tub? Why have a tub over a sauna? There's any number of topics they could do. Going back to the bar, they could have a local brew that they feature every month, and maybe have the brewmaster of that local micro pub or microbrew come on and talk about their beer. And they could have, talk about this one's more hoppy, this one's more fruity. It could be anything. They could have a wine per month, and then talk about that wine and have a wine show. I know a woman that does a show here every week. It's on wine, and they talk about different wines from the Napa Valley.
I was doing a course, I guess 3 years ago in our online conference room, and I decided to put my wife on the spot a little bit because she has some amazing knowledge about children with epilepsy because of our son's story, and she wrote a book on him, and it's just a really heartwarming story of taking a little guy that was having 200 to 300 seizures a day for years, and all of a sudden finding a special diet that stopped his seizures in just pretty much within a week. In fact, most of them disappeared within the day. And during this show, I'm thinking, during this class, we wanted to do a podcast. So I says, what, why don't you do a podcast? Why don't we do a podcast for epilepsymoms.com? And her immediate reaction was, I can't do that. I don't have a good voice for that. And I ended up, with the help of the class, twisting her arm and getting her, helping her to create her show. And, 3 years later, her show's been downloaded over 100,000 times. And it's just been an amazing experience for her and for her listeners. And she doesn't do them regularly. She hasn't done one for a long time, but just getting started, and she's going to be getting back on it. But these podcasts, and you probably experienced with your show, these have the ability to reach far and wide, don't they?
Yeah, the content is evergreen, and so even if I don't get a huge listening live some week, I just watch the counter go up every week in my weekly stats for the replays and the downloads. So any show can be downloaded too, by the way, and you can have the whole MP3, you can slice it and dice it as you want, but so can your listeners, so they can also take it with them if they don't want to stream it. But yeah, this evergreen content's really important, and especially on niche topics like yours. So I can't imagine there's a lot of other shows, if there's any show on epileptic children like your wife has produced. So look at how many people she can help now, next year, 10 years from now, because it's really important content and it's evergreen.
And that's true with her. And you mentioned it as well about interviewing people. That is a great way to go. We do that on our shows as well. And because sometimes people think, well, what am I going to talk about? And in her case, she just got on a couple of the doctors that were so instrumental in helping us get Adam sorted out. And they provide the content. And you mentioned a pub could bring in somebody, the brewmaster. So there's really no shortage of content. It really is just a matter of sitting down, isn't it? And then just kind of figuring out, getting creative. What's our show going to be about?
I think it's all about having fun. If you come to this from the mindset that your goal is to help others, you'll know what to do, and good things will come back to you. That's kind of my philosophy in life, and I've read many books on it, and there's a wonderful book. I had a guest on a few weeks ago, Sri Kumar Rao, and I recommend it to your listeners. It's called Happiness at Work, and his other book is Are You Ready to Succeed? And he talks just about that, just putting out good energy, being helpful to people, being sincerely helpful to other people, and good things will come back to you.
Don, I think on that note, any final words to listeners before we part ways here?
No, I just want to say, give it a try. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. It's free to try. All we need is an email address or a Facebook account. If you've never broadcast before, just use the microphone built into your computer. If you're a professional broadcaster like you, James, you can get as technical as you want with mixers that plug in. You can use professional editing tools, but our console does it all, and you can upload your library of songs and just mix and match and have fun with it. And the main thing is just try it. And you've got everything to gain, nothing to lose. Give it a shot.
Don, thanks so much for joining me for Coffee Talk.
Hey, my pleasure. Anytime you'd like me back, I'd be delighted to do it. It's been a lot of fun, James. Thank you.
Wonderful, Don. Thanks so much.
To learn more about James Martell, the School of Internet Marketing, and how you or someone on your staff can quickly and easily learn how to develop a successful online presence for your personal or corporate brand, visit theschoolofinternetmarketing.com. That's www.theschoolofinternetmarketing.com.